When my younger brother emptied my bank account, I still believed he would come back. I was wrong, but I was not broken. If you have ever trusted someone with your whole heart, only to be left in silence, this story is for you. Take a moment, breathe with me, and if stories of quiet strength speak to you, like this video, subscribe, and stay, because sometimes the strongest revenge is not loud. Sometimes it is simply living long enough to tell the truth. I want to tell you this story slowly, not because it is dramatic, but because it is real. My name is Ruth. Most people call me Maggie. I am the older sister, the responsible one, the one who always stayed. I grew up in a small house with thin walls and long winters. Our parents worked hard, but money was always tight. Still, our home was warm. We shared meals at a small table. We shared stories, and we shared dreams that felt too big for where we came from. My younger brother Daniel was 4 years younger than me. He had a soft smile and restless eyes. Where I was careful, he was hopeful. Where I saved, he spent. Where I planned, he dreamed. From the time we were children, I looked after him. I packed his lunches. I helped with homework. When our parents argued late at night, I sat on his bed and told him everything would be okay. I meant it every time. As adults, that pattern never really changed. I worked as an office administrator for nearly 20 years. It was not glamorous, but it was steady. I paid my bills on time. I saved a little each month, not for luxury, just for safety. Daniel moved from job to job. Nothing ever felt right to him. He always said his real opportunity was coming soon. I believed him. I always did. When he met his girlfriend, Lila, everything seemed brighter at first. She was charming, soft-spoken. She laughed easily, and she made Daniel feel seen. I welcomed her into my home. I cooked dinners. I listened to their plans. I smiled when they talked about moving away someday. I even helped them when money was tight. At first it was small things, a borrowed 20, a phone bill paid late, groceries I covered without asking for anything back. Daniel would say, "I'll pay you back next week, Maggie, I promise." And I would say, "Don't worry, just get back on your feet." I thought that was what love looked like. Quiet help, no conditions. A few years ago I received a modest inheritance from an aunt. It was not life-changing money, but for me it felt like air after holding my breath too long. I didn't tell many people, just Daniel. I remember the way his eyes widened. Not with greed, I thought, but with hope. "You're finally going to relax," he said. "You deserve that." I smiled. I wanted to believe him. He asked if I could help him and Lila start fresh, just temporarily. They had plans. They needed time. I hesitated, not because I didn't trust him, but because something in my chest felt tight. Still, I agreed to help manage some things for him. I added his name to one account so he could pay shared expenses. He said it would make things easier. I told myself this was what family did. Looking back now, I see all the quiet warnings, the way he avoided details, the way Lila stayed silent during money conversations, the way my stomach nodded, even when my face smiled. But at the time I chose love over fear. Every morning I woke up, made tea, and believed everything was fine. I believed my brother would never hurt me. I believed that kindness always came back around. I didn't know that while I was folding laundry and planning dinners, my safety was slowly disappearing, one transaction at a time, one quiet decision after another. I didn't know that soon. I would wake up to silence, not just an empty account, but an empty space where trust used to live. And this is where my story truly begins. The first sign came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Nothing dramatic, no shouting, no phone call in the night. I was standing in my kitchen holding a warm cup of tea when my phone buzzed. It was a message from my bank. At first, I didn't understand it. I read it twice, then a third time. A withdrawal, larger than usual. I told myself there must be a mistake. Or maybe Daniel had paid a bill and forgot to tell me. I wanted that to be true. I sat down at the small table by the window and opened my laptop. The screen took longer than usual to load. I remember tapping my fingers, feeling impatient but calm. When the account page finally appeared, my chest tightened. There were several withdrawals. Not just one, small ones, then larger ones, all from places I didn't recognize. I stared at the numbers like they might rearrange themselves if I waited long enough. They didn't. I picked up my phone and called Daniel. It rang, then went to voicemail. I didn't panic, not yet. I sent a simple message. "Hey, I noticed some activity on the account. Can you call me when you get a chance?" I tried to keep my words gentle, normal, like this was just another small thing we would clear up. An hour passed, then two. By the afternoon, the tea in my cup had gone cold. I hadn't moved from the table. I checked my phone again. No reply. That evening, I cooked dinner out of habit, chopped onions, stirred a pot, set one plate down, then paused. I laughed softly to myself. Why was I cooking like nothing had changed? I ate slowly, barely tasting the food. The house felt larger than usual, quieter. Before bed, I checked the account again. More activity. That was when fear finally arrived. Not loud, not sharp. It was slow, heavy. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, numbers floated behind my eyelids. I kept hearing Daniel's voice from years ago. "I promise, Maggie." The next morning I called the bank. My voice shook just a little. They explained the withdrawals, calmly, too calmly. They said my brother had full access. Everything had been done legally. I thanked them and hung up. I sat in silence for a long time. Then I called Daniel again, straight to voicemail. I tried Lila's number. It rang once, then stopped. I drove to their apartment that afternoon. I didn't call ahead. I needed to see them, needed to hear an explanation out loud. The parking lot was half empty. Their car was gone. I knocked anyway, once, twice. No answer. I pressed my forehead against the door for just a moment. The wood felt cold. A neighbor walked past and glanced at me with polite curiosity. I stepped back, embarrassed, like I had been caught doing something wrong. On the drive home, I kept replaying memories. Family dinners, holiday laughter, the way Daniel used to borrow my sweaters as a teenager and never return them. I told myself there had to be a reason, an emergency, a misunderstanding. That night, I finally received a message. It was short. "Hey Maggie, we had to leave town, I'll explain later." No apology, no explanation, just distance. I stared at my phone until the screen dimmed. Over the next few days I learned the truth slowly, painfully. The accounts were nearly empty. My savings, my inheritance, years of quiet planning. I canceled automatic payments. I called creditors. I rearranged my life in small, careful steps. I didn't cry, not yet. Instead, I cleaned the house. I organized drawers. I folded clothes with neat corners. At night, I lay in bed listening to the hum of the refrigerator down the hall. I wondered how love could disappear without making a sound. I thought about calling the police, about lawyers, about anger. But what I felt most was grief, not for the money, but for the brother. I waited for Daniel to call, to apologize, to come back. Days turned into weeks. The silence answered for him, and somewhere deep inside me, beneath the sadness, something began to shift, not into rage, but into clarity. I didn't know it yet. But the woman who trusted without question was slowly becoming someone else, someone quieter, stronger. The letter arrived on a Thursday, no return address, just my name written in familiar handwriting. I knew it was Daniel's before I opened it. My hands felt heavy as I slid my finger under the flap. Inside was one page, folded once, careful, almost respectful. He didn't apologize right away. That hurt more than I expected. He wrote about how things had been hard, about how Lila wanted more from life, about how they needed a chance to start over. He said he meant to tell me sooner. He said he hoped I would understand. I read the letter twice, then a third time. He never said the words "I'm sorry." He never said my name after the first line. At the bottom, he asked me not to contact them. Not yet. He said it would only make things harder. I folded the letter and placed it on the table. I sat there for a long time, listening to the clock tick on the wall. That was the moment something inside me finally stopped reaching. Not snapped, not shattered. It simply let go. I realized then that waiting was a choice, and I had waited long enough. The next morning I went back to the bank. I asked questions I should have asked sooner. I listened without interrupting. They explained my options. None of them promised the money back, but they offered something else: control. I removed Daniel's access from every account. I closed what needed to be closed. I opened new ones in my name only. Each signature felt steady, final. After that, I went home and made tea. The same mug, the same table. But I was not the same woman. That afternoon, I sat down and wrote my own letter, not to Daniel, but to myself. I wrote about trust, about how love doesn't mean surrender, about how kindness needs boundaries to survive. I cried while writing it, softly, quiet tears that surprised me with how calm they felt. A few days later, a distant cousin called, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. She hesitated before speaking, then told me she had seen Daniel and Lila online. They were posting photos, smiling, new city, new apartment. I thanked her and hung up. I didn't look them up. I didn't need to. That night, I took out the letter Daniel had sent and read it one last time. Then I placed it in a drawer and closed it. I realized then that revenge didn't have to mean destruction. It didn't have to be loud. My revenge would be quiet. I focused on rebuilding, not just my finances, but my sense of self. I took on extra work when I could. I canceled small comforts without resentment. I lived simply. Every small step forward felt like reclaiming something that had been taken, not money, dignity. Months passed. One evening my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. It was Daniel. His voice sounded smaller, tired. He said things hadn't worked out the way he planned. He said he wanted to talk. I listened. I didn't interrupt. When he finished, there was a long pause. Then I spoke. I told him I hoped he was safe. I told him I was healing. And I told him I could not be part of his life anymore. My voice didn't shake. He was silent. Then he said my name softly. I wished him well, and I ended the call. I sat there afterward, phone in my hand, heart steady. For the first time since the money disappeared, I felt free, not because I had won, but because I had chosen myself. Healing does not arrive all at once. It comes in pieces, small, ordinary moments that don't look important until you notice how far you've come. After that phone call with Daniel, the house felt different, not empty, just still. I started waking up earlier in the mornings, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I would sit by the window with my tea and watch the sky change colors. Some mornings were gray, some were soft blue. Each one felt like a quiet promise. I made a new routine, simple things. Walking after work, cooking meals that lasted 2 days, turning off the television earlier than I used to. I stopped replaying conversations in my head. When Daniel's voice tried to return, I let it pass through without holding on. That surprised me most. I met with a financial counselor through my job. I felt embarrassed at first, like I had failed some invisible test. But she was kind. She didn't judge, she just listened. Together we made a plan. Nothing dramatic, just steady steps forward, each payment made, each balance lowered, each month survived. Slowly the fear loosened its grip. One afternoon, while cleaning out a closet, I found an old photo album, pictures of Daniel and me as children, gap-toothed smiles, matching winter coats. I sat on the floor and looked through it. I didn't cry. I realized then that memory could exist without pain, that love could become something quiet and distant, like a song you no longer play but still remember. Time passed. A year later, I received another message from Daniel, longer this time, careful words. He said he understood now. He said he was sorry. I believed he meant it, but belief does not always mean reconciliation. I wrote back with honesty. I told him I accepted his apology, and I told him I was not ready to reopen that door. I wished him peace, and I meant it. After sending the message, I went for a walk. The air was cool. Leaves moved gently along the sidewalk. I felt light. That was when I understood my revenge had already happened. I had survived. I had rebuilt, and I had done it without bitterness. I no longer needed answers. I no longer needed justice in the way I once imagined it. My life was mine again. I began to volunteer at a local community center, helping people organize paperwork, teaching simple budgeting skills. I never shared my story unless someone asked, and even then I kept it gentle. Pain doesn't need an audience to be real. Some evenings I would sit at my kitchen table, the same one where I once stared at my bank statements in fear. Now it held notebooks, plans, tea mugs with chipped edges. The table hadn't changed, but I had learned that strength can be quiet, that dignity can survive betrayal, and that forgiveness is not a gift you give someone else. It is a gift you give yourself. There is a moment, long after the pain fades, when you realize something important. Not everything broken needs to be fixed. Some things are meant to be released. Years have passed since my brother emptied my bank accounts and disappeared. The numbers recovered slowly. The trust did not, and that is okay. Today, my life is smaller than the one I once imagined, but it is steadier, calmer, mine. I still wake up early. I still make tea in the same mug. But now, when I sit at the table, my shoulders are relaxed. I no longer flinch when my phone buzzes. I no longer wonder what I could have done differently. I no longer replay the past like it holds answers. It doesn't. What it holds is a lesson. I learned that loving someone does not mean sacrificing yourself, that helping does not mean handing over your safety, and that silence can be stronger than confrontation. People sometimes ask me if I ever got my revenge. I smile when they ask that, because they are imagining something loud, a lawsuit, public shame, a dramatic ending. But my revenge was much quieter than that. I rebuilt my life without them. I protected my peace. I chose dignity over destruction. And that choice followed me into every part of my life. I became more careful with my trust, not closed, just aware. I learned to say no without guilt, to pause before agreeing, to listen to the tight feeling in my chest when something does not feel right. That feeling is wisdom. I didn't know that before. As for Daniel, I wish him no harm. I truly don't. But I no longer wish him access to my life. Some doors, once closed, are meant to stay that way. Forgiveness did not mean forgetting. It meant freeing myself from carrying anger that was never mine to hold. If you are listening to this story and walking through your own quiet betrayal, I want you to know something. You are not weak for trusting. You are not foolish for loving. And you are not broken because someone chose to take advantage of your kindness. You can rebuild, slowly, softly, in your own time, and one day you will wake up and realize that the pain no longer introduces itself first thing in the morning. That day will come. Your revenge does not need to be loud. It does not need witnesses. It only needs one thing, your peace. If this story stayed with you, take a moment to like this video. Share it with someone who might need quiet strength right now. And tell me in the comments, have you ever found peace after betrayal? Subscribe for more real-life stories told gently, honestly, and from the heart. Thank you for sitting with me, and thank you for listening.